Hello, Sense of Things. It's Jeff and Ron here once again for another week of The Sense of Things. On the show today, we've got a lot of good stuff. Ron has got a plethora of different statistics and things like that. One thing he's going to talk about is the Titanic Signal, which I am waiting with bated breath to learn a little bit about, and so should you. I'm also going to cover a chart or a report that came out of the San Francisco Fed, and I will just title that, "What if tariffs are actually deflationary?" I'll leave it at that. See you back here in just a second. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Ron, how you doing, bud?
How do? Things are good. I can't believe next week's Thanksgiving. All the Christmas stuff was coming out before Halloween. The retailers and the supermarkets are desperate.
I know when I'm walking around in shorts and a t-shirt and I'm hearing Christmas music, it's just a little weird.
Growing up in the Northeast, without a chill in the air or whatever, it's been tough. But I got to tell you, it's been rainy and chilly here in Arizona. So It's almost like Christmas weather.
Yeah, we're finally getting that storm that you guys got over the last few days. It finally wandered its way over our way. So overnight, we're supposed to get a bunch of rain. I don't think we're going to get a bunch of cool, but we're going to get a bunch of rain.
Yeah, you're definitely going to get rain. We've had more rain here on and off for the last 3 weeks in a short period of time than I could ever remember being here. Yeah, you could take our rain and take the chill, whatever works for you.
We'd need something at this point. Rain would be good. You've got some cool stuff for us, a whole bunch of little bits and pieces.
Yeah, let's start out with this week in history.
Okay.
So 1777, Articles of Confederation submitted to the states for ratification.
Interesting.
Yes. 1863, Lincoln travels to Gettysburg to give his famous but short speech. And I totally forgot. I still don't understand why this is basically the most famous presidential speech in history, next to FDR on December 8th, 1941. But I heard this speech was literally less than 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was 14 minutes. Yeah, 14 minutes.
Yeah, I don't understand that. All right. 1869, the Suez Canal opens, and ever since, people are ready to go to war.
Yeah. And if you remember a few years back, ships kept running into the side of it.
I got to tell you, can you imagine being a contractor working for the oil companies and trying to pilot one of these tankers through there and not knowing if a freaking missile or an underwater I could not imagine the level of constant anxiety and danger on a daily basis.
I know,
especially when the fever pitch is high.
Yeah, and around Yemen and stuff like that, where they were launching off missiles at all kinds of ships over there.
All right. I love this one. The Scientific American announces Thomas Edison's wonderful invention,
the phonograph.
Yes. So
I didn't realize it was that far back.
I actually thought it was around the turn of the century, but he was credited with inventing a lot of things. And actually, a lot of these things he took something from somebody did and made it better. It wasn't his other, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But I just thought this was interesting because if you look at those old phonographs, the technology and the design basically was the same for 50 years.
Yeah.
They didn't really change much to it with the big ear on it. It really didn't change much until maybe the 30s or the 40s.
They just made them. I've got one in my house that I got from my grandmother. It's a Victrola. It basically is the same tech. 1920s-ish.
Oh, all right.
And it basically is exactly the same thing as the ones with the horn on top. It's just in a nice wooden cabinet.
Yeah. No, that's nice. Again, you don't see too many of those. If it's working, it's even better.
Yeah. The problem is finding the needles for the damn things.
Yeah. I totally forgot about this, that there were literally thousands of time zones in the United States. Because everybody, every town had their own time zone, and the railroads are getting PO'd because, you're late So the railroads created the first time zones, 4 continental time zones in the United States. And essentially, that's what we've been ever since. And I just thought this was interesting that this was 1883. And before that, it was complete chaos for 100 years.
Yeah. And it was funny. I looked up the other day because we had the change in the time zone or the change in
the clock,
daylight savings. And it was 1923 when that was created.
Hey, I don't care. I'm in Arizona. We don't change.
I know it never changes for you. I
We're
love this one for
one of
anybody
the
else.
only two, Alaska and us. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I just laugh because it's like, it's for energy efficiency. It's nothing to do with energy efficiency anymore. It makes no difference.
I am sure in some parts of the country that may hold true if you're depending on where you are with the sun and whatever. But at the end of the day, give me a break.
I think it's lazy people not wanting to change things. Quite frankly, it's all it is.
I don't know. It's crazy. All right, next one. 1923, Garrett Morgan patents. Oops, sorry, I spelled that wrong. The 3-position traffic signal.
Yeah.
Which I'm thinking to myself, you needed a patent for that, but
Yeah, maybe anything like that. Yeah, because if you're going to sell it, you want a patent.
1968, TV viewers outraged as the first football game is cut off to air. Heidi, and the Raiders scored 2 touchdowns in 9 seconds. So obviously, I don't remember this, but I do remember over the years everybody referring to this as the Heidi game.
Yep,
and this
I
would
remember it.
never happen in today's world with all the sports betting. Never happen. They wait to the very end.
And it's funny. I remember was it like 2 years ago that Billy Joel did his farewell thing on NBC, and they cut off like the last segment of it. Like he was right in the middle of starting a new song, and they just cut it off and went to the news. I'm like, okay, but when a friggin' football game goes an hour and a half longer than it's supposed to, oh yeah, we're not going to cut that off.
If you think about it, because now, remember, back then it was only 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games.
Yep.
Then they added time because they wanted the pregame show for the commercials and all that other crap. Now the games don't go. I mean, they don't finish in 2.5, 2:45. They're 3:20, 3:30 now. And back then there was only 3 channels. So it's, hey, game's over. Hey, we got to do commercials because people bought the time on Heidi.
On Heidi.
All right, 1973.
I'm not a crook.
I'm not a crook.
Yes, you are. I hate to tell you.
I didn't see this till many years later. 1975, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest opens in theaters. I've only seen it twice. It was a good watch once, a decent watch twice. I don't know if I could watch it a third time.
Yeah.
But do you know who the producer of this movie was?
I have no idea.
Michael Douglas, who didn't appear in the movie. And he put his good friend from acting school into this movie. And I believe it was his first movie role. Guess who the actor is or was?
Trying to remember the other people. I remember Jack Nicholson, but I don't remember who else.
He played the character Martini. I do remember that.
I've only seen it once or twice, so I couldn't tell you.
Danny DeVito.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Because they were all psychopaths. I can't remember what his thing was, but it was like a buzz cut hair. Like you would almost not recognize him because everybody thinks of Louis De Palma from Taxi.
Yeah.
But it's a good flick. It's definitely a good flick. And of course, that's where Nurse Ratched came from, right?
Yes.
That was from the whole thing. A lot of people don't realize, like when you think of a mean Nurse Ratched, this is the movie it came from.
That's where it came from, yeah.
And in a special election in 2003, the Terminator became the 38th governor of California. What a crap show all that was.
Oh, God, yeah.
Anyway, that is this week in history. I'm giving my best mouth line from this week in baseball.
Yeah, lots this week.
So I know it's not the best graphic, but you got the Titanic Signal. And where's the Titanic Signal? This triggered about a week and a half ago. And basically it's saying when the Titanic Signal triggers, where are we 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 8 weeks later, what the medium and whatever, and typically negative. And we were talking in our pregame, I believe that we're going to be negative probably through Thanksgiving, maybe the first week of December, because that's when we're going to start to get retail numbers for the holiday. And if it's weak numbers for retail, I think we're going to be flat to negative for the rest of the year. If it's somewhat positive, we'll see what happens. But if it's somewhat positive.
If Walmart's numbers are any indication, we should have a pretty positive retail season.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Do you remember the Hindenburg signal?
Oh, I know.
It worked all the way up to about 15 years ago. Then it triggered 4 or 5 more times and the market kept going up. All that free money sloshing around is still profiting.
It's the, I want the Nouriel El Rabini signal.
Oh, Dr. Doom. Well,
Let's
him and
go.
Mark Faber, if you remember
Yeah.
Mark Faber,
Oh,
he
yeah.
sounds like a Bond villain, and he
Yeah.
kept saying buy gold, even though when gold was going down years ago. But all right, here
Well,
we
he was
go.
right eventually. If you bought it from like 2002,
Rum
12,
clock
that's
is right
great.
twice a day too. I always tell people, when do you remember to get new wipers for your car? When it rains.
Yes.
That's when you remember. Not
Yeah.
when the sun is shining. All those people are eventually right at some point, but you might have to wait 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
So I thought this was interesting. This is the average cost of electricity in the
Wow.
United States. I knew California was going to be the highest. New York, that makes sense too, with unions and a lot of the other stuff. Arizona's pretty high. But obviously, it does make sense for, interesting enough, with one of the smaller populous states, but the largest landmass is Alaska.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Not too bad in Texas. Listen, don't mess with Texas. Remember, there are 3 power grids in the United States: East, West, and Texas has
And
their own
Texas.
power grid.
Yep.
So
And we ain't
someday
giving
we
it
will
up.
succeed from the union. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah,
It's getting
we have
close.
our own power, so we don't need that. And we've got a coastline and, whatever else.
Yeah, you can control all the import export. That's for sure.
Pretty much. It's the second
Remember,
largest port
Gulf of
for
America.
Mexico.
Control the
third.
east side of Gulf of America.
Yeah. Third or fourth largest port in the country in Houston.
And here's one was interesting. DC, which is not a state, but they're 19. That's pretty high. But think about it. I don't think they got any power plants there.
No,
They're
I
probably
bet you they buy
snaking off of
everything in.
Virginia
Yeah.
and Maryland.
Yep. Yeah.
So
It's interesting. New Jersey in there is 17 cents. That's almost doubled in the last year. So I don't know when this thing was done, but that's almost doubled because the idiot governor shut down like one of the nuclear power plants, which I'm like, that creates no greenhouse gases at all. And then 3 or 4 of their other coal plants or something like that. So yeah, we're going to do windmills and whatever. Pretty much windmills, because there's really not much land to be able to do any kind of solar there.
yeah. All right, next one. House income to debt ratio. I just wanted to bring this up real quick. I got one other chart. Might as well around the holiday time talking about the US. I thought this was interesting where Idaho has, by the way, you not the hoe, that's Idaho.
Yeah.
Household debt to income ratio. Idaho is the highest. I don't get that. I know that it's not a huge populous state, but why the highest debt to income ratio is there? I don't know. Utah's pretty big. Arizona and Colorado, pretty big. I would have thought it would have been one of the southern states, Mississippi, Alabama.
Yeah.
But they're actually on pretty low. Maybe because they don't have the credit to borrow. I don't know.
Well, the only thing I can think with Idaho is all the unsuccessful Californians moved to Idaho because they've had a massive influx of people from California.
Yeah.
So maybe they went there and they can't find jobs and they still have all the debt that they had out in California.
But also Hawaii is the highest also. That doesn't make much sense because you need some money to own some land there.
But there's not that many of those people. There's a lot of people who don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, I think I still have the chart up. I may pull it up when I do my thing, but there's a chart from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis that shows the unemployment rates. And it's interesting, the same thing.
And again, if they show the chart in the lower right corner of what it looked like in 1999, it's not much different.
Yeah.
Not much different at all. Okay. Other than
Awesome.
Idaho getting worse, I think they're the ones that went from moderate to worse. But
yeah.
All right, my last chart, going with the AI theme as we always do every now and then. Largest data centers in the United States, and count on doubling this probably in the next 5 to 10 years. I thought this was just interesting that New York has the largest data center in 22.9 million square feet. I can't imagine the electricity and the water that's needed to run these things. Everybody talking about, why does Arizona? You can't get, all our water comes from Colorado. And we also basically, so does Southern California. That's what their water is coming from. Hence the Hoover Dam or the Boulder Dam, depending on how you want to look at it. That's the Colorado water generating electricity for Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hilarious. And soon to be Texas, we're going to have out in the Panhandle area, close to Lubbock, they're going to build the biggest data center in the country out there. They're in process of building that right now. So that thing is going to be monstrous.
I know
So
there's
it'll
two
be
data
neat.
centers in Phoenix. Obviously, we got Taiwan Semiconductor that's got that humongous factory north of Phoenix, and you got
Yep.
Intel that's in Gilbert. So with them, they're going to be building more data, and there's plenty of land for them to build. The issue is going to
Yeah.
be water and electricity.
Yeah. When you've got right here in Austin, you've got Samsung's building like I think another world in Taylor, it was a sleepy little railroad town up until about 4 or 5 years ago, and all of a sudden Samsung decided to do that, and then Elon with his gigafactory down here, and that thing is massive. It's like over a mile and a half long when you
Oh,
drive by it. It's just unbelievable.
all
All
right.
right,
What do you got?
let me show my little research project for this week here. So let me bring that up and share. So I just happened to be, I've been on a little kick of going through the different Fed websites, and I was on the San Francisco Fed, which I really had never gone on before, and actually found a really interesting paper that just came out by two gentlemen, Regis Barnashan and Ayush Singh. And the paper is called What is Tariff Shock? Insights from 150 Years of Tariff Policy. So these two gentlemen went in and they're looking at, okay, what's the history of tariffs been? And of course, the Fed think is usually, oh, if there's tariffs, there's going to be inflation and everything else. And they actually have a little bit of a different opinion. And of course, this is their opinion. It's not official Fed policy, but I like their thought process. 2025, 15% jump in tariffs might cool inflation, but also jobs. Typically, what has happened, so if you look at history for the last 150 years, when there is a tariff hike, typically what happens is you see lower inflation and higher unemployment as a result of that. So, not what the Fed thinks, not what everybody says, oh, we're going to have all this inflation. It's the exact opposite that has tended to happen in history. So when they looked at it, their analysis was a 5 percentage point increase in average tariffs. CPI tends to fall 1 to 2 percentage points, and unemployment rises a half to 1 percentage point. And that typically peaks 1 to 2 years after those tariffs hit. So it acts almost like when the Fed raises interest rates, it does something very similar there. And so they say it's not like a classic push type inflation shock. It's more of an uncertainty shock that happens. One of the worst examples of this, and typically in our long-term histories, if you look back into the 1890s, we had the worst recession, or we had the worst depression that we ever had. Now everybody thinks the 1930s, but it was much, much worse in the 1890s. And you had two different thought processes. Democrats said, we don't want tariffs at all. We're going to cut them. And Republicans said, we want tariffs because we want to have protectionism. Both of their policies sucked during that time period because in 1893 to 1897, we had the worst depression in U.S. history. When Democrats were in charge, 1894, they cut tariffs. We had massive inflation. I got these wrong. Actually, they need to be shoved down. But massive inflation, which put the economy on the brakes. And then Republicans took power in 1897. They said, we're raising tariffs higher than they ever had been in history. Same thing, except then all of a sudden we had high inflation and we had tons of layoffs, caused all kinds of hassles until the market calmed down and inflation went down a few years later. So, yeah, it was one of those things where it was bad policy, period. And when you look at where tariff rates were back then, here's where tariff rates were. So if you look back to, this is probably the 1870s, post Civil War, tariffs went up massively because we were trying to pay off the Civil War. Plus you had the Industrial Revolution here in the country, and they were massively protectionist. So going through this, you had multiple times where it went up, it went down. This was a Democratic a Democratic administration. Then the Republicans came back in. Then it went down again. Then the Republicans came in again with the McKinley Act at the end of the 1900s, which was even higher tariffs. Then it dropped a little bit. Then it went back up a little bit with the end of McKinley. And then Teddy Roosevelt came in and he was like, I don't even want to play this game. I'm just going to focus on regulations and focus on trust busting and all that. So he didn't do much. Then you have Wilson coming in, World War II or World War One. Tariff rates went to the lowest that they had been in almost 50 years. Then 1920s, you had a series of just absolutely stupid tariffs going up. And then from that peak point in the late 30s, all the way through, it was basically at the time when Roosevelt came in, it went down, and then we went through a series where it just was in a gradual decline over time. 2025, biggest one-year jump since the 1930 Smoot-Hawley disaster, which was right here where the idiots decided to just go crazy with this and had 60% tariffs on everything. So in the modern era, so if you look at it from 1948 through now, tariffs really have been on a slow downward run, except for in the middle of the 1970s, there was this big spike up, kind of Ford, early Carter, big spike up. And if you look back now towards,
I think that was during the oil embargo.
yeah, the oil embargo, and then there was all kinds of other little goofy tariffs that went on. You saw, once again, big spike up in unemployment. Inflation went down during that same time period. It went down and then it spiked right back up because Carter came in and reduced tariffs massively. And then all of a sudden we had this huge run up because of a lot of different things, but huge run up in inflation. Jobs stabilized there for a while. And then throughout Reagan's presidency, they didn't really change much. They just kind of left them where they were. They didn't really monkey with them at all. Then we roll into the late 90s, into the 2000s. We were at the lowest tariffs we had ever been in history. Inflation stayed pretty low. Unemployment stayed pretty level because there weren't any major changes or spikes. Tiny changes are okay. Big changes, not necessarily always a good thing. Why does inflation fall? Really, two big mechanisms are what the authors of this thing put. Uncertainty shock. So trade war fears, stock volatility spikes, businesses and consumers freeze. I think we saw some of this earlier in the year when there was just uncertainty of, okay, where are these things all at? Now we're starting to find some stability in there and not the shock. We might not see as much of the craziness, but there's an uncertainty effect and a wealth effect. And this is really the weird part is typically you have that uncertainty shock and then the stock market gets blasted. The stock market's continued to go up amongst all this stuff. That could be an ongoing thing. And I think it goes back to what you talked about last week on the show, that we've had, what, 3 years of double
we
digit.
Stay at this level, plus or minus for the rest of the year. It'll be 3 straight years of double-digit gains, which has only happened 4 times in the last 75 years, 3 of those times between 95 and 99.
Okay. Yeah, which that's not necessarily a good thing. And have we ever had 4 years in a row of double digits? Or
No, again, 95 to 99 in a rolling 3-year period we did. So 95 to 99, we were double-digit every year. And then there was only one other time prior to that we did 3 years in a row. And this would be the 5th time.
Yeah.
75 years.
Okay. Well, we shall see, right? Bottom line for 2025, it's likely with tariffs, if these guys' hypothesis is correct, it's likely going to be disinflationary, which helps the Fed fight inflation. Once again, the Fed believes that because of tariffs, we're going to have rampant inflation. They could be completely wrong on this. And I think the problem is they tend to have that Fed think of there's only one way to look at this. But it could also be recessionary and see higher unemployment and slower growth, which kind of flips the 2018 to 2019. Now, the guys said this is their best empirical evidence that they have right now. It is a working paper, not an official Fed view. I think what potentially could happen in the employment situation is we could see a spike in white-collar unemployment due to the adoption of AI. As a component of that, we've seen that with kind of the middle management of Amazon got decimated. I think they laid off 30 or 40,000 people that were in the middle management, and a lot of that is going to be replaced or streamlined with AI. while we see an increase in blue collar employment because there's a lot of investment coming into building of factories, building a lot of different things, power plants, everything else. So is that white collar unemployment going to be offset by the blue collar unemployment? And if that does, where are your investors? Are your investors more the white collar people who are making more money? Or is it going to be that the blue collar investors or the blue collar people start to invest more in the market and it offsets that? If we see a decline in the stock market, that's where that wealth effect thing starts to come into the picture. What are your thoughts?
I think the whole AI thing is completely undetermined how it may or may not affect. I hear people that are quote unquote experts. I just nod my head because they don't know.
Yeah.
Look, there are definitely some things that AI will help out. I think autonomous driving, and that I think is going to have more of an effect than just AI doing general work. I think it's going to eliminate most of coding for programming. We've already seen that.
It
Right,
already has.
And I believe, I'm hoping in healthcare, it helps figure out how to come up with drugs or whatever to solve disease. But my point is, like, somebody's going, well, a third of white collar jobs are going, you don't know.
You don't know.
No.
Yeah. And companies, you still, even though you have AI, I'm sorry, you still have to have a human kind of checking it. Because even today, I was using Grok to analyze this a little bit more in detail and build some slides for me. And I'm reading it out, and I'd read the article, and I'm like, no, you completely misinterpreted what was in there because whatever bias it has from whatever sources it pulls from, you still have to have somebody that's checking the information because it's not that good. And I hate to tell Google this. Google's up like $198 today. It went up from like 178 yesterday. Their Gemini 3, it sucks beyond belief.
Oh, I thought it was getting good reviews.
Oh, no, it just launched yesterday. And I'm like, I went on to it this morning and I put this article into Grok, and I put the same article into Google. And I think the Google one, I just noticed I closed the thing down. It was still spinning. So I don't know if it's just that they're getting hit by a bunch of people on it this morning or whatever, but it's suckadoodles is all I can say. Sir. In my opinion,
I was reading an article yesterday about it, which was why it popped over 300. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Who knows? That's all I got for the day.
Good stuff.
Oops. Yeah, it's just, I think it's interesting. And I think it made me rethink, okay, what could we see this next year? I think there's so many moving parts with the economy when it comes to the tax cuts and a lot of the investment in the country and everything else. Once again, yes, we might have tariffs, and this could come to be, or it could be complete moot and a different point. But I wanted to present that because I thought it was an interesting article, starting to look at a lot of the different feds because they put out some good stuff. I don't know what they smoke down in Atlanta, but they're on a whole different wavelength down there.
I agree.
All right, man. Thanks, folks, for joining us. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of this stuff. So give us a comment, and I will make sure I put a link to that article inside the show notes. So if you need it, you can pull it up. I will say it's a little bit wordy, but it's good information. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys back here the very next time.